All right. It's my first one. This is my first one doing it with someone, so
Yay!
it's a bit different.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those things that when doing it with someone else, it feels like, oh, it's a bit
It's actually
formal.
happening, yeah. With the other one, I can just kind of sit there and be like, oh, that was really shit, and just like cancel it and then like do it again. All right, well, let's get started. So, hello and welcome to the Redefining Spirituality Podcast. My name is Brendan Van Witchen and I've got my guest Rebecca Gauci.
Yep.
Is that how you say it? All right, cool. Rebecca is a psychic medium, a hairdresser, likes to dance, lots of other things, and thought she'd have a lot of really good information and perspectives on, well, given that the whole podcast is called Redefining Spirituality, and, you know, she works very heavily with spirit, which is, man, I mean, you can explain your own perspective of of what spirit is and what you do, but yeah, welcome.
Thanks for having me. So I've been a psychic medium for heading into 8 years now. And yeah, when I sort of started in this world, it was a bit funny because at the time I thought I was a complete atheist, didn't believe in anything, and growing up Catholic was very sort of anti anything. Really.
Yeah.
And then, discovering mediumship and my own relationship with spirit, and now going on to teaching students. It's all been such a beautiful evolvement, and I think spirituality has touched my life in so many different ways. It's not just been from mediumship, connecting with people's loved ones or bringing through guidance for other people, but also just understanding myself on a deeper level and just navigating everyday situations in a much better way.
Because that's definitely something I felt like personally with my own development, it seems as if like psychic development it's not really something separate from yourself. It is like learning about yourself more and learning how to like articulate or express yourself more. Also, I just need to double check that I actually hit record on the phone as well. I didn't check. Okay, we are good. So, all right, yeah. Before we started, I had to get 4 different things to work at the same time, so we're all good. But yeah, yeah, like in the way that I've always viewed it, because all right, so quick backstory on how Rebecca and I met. Basically, just through like mediumship classes. I mean, I guess like a good question is like, how did you end up in Diane's classes in the first place? Because you've been going to for 5 years or something, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a wild story in itself.
Yeah.
So I guess I should probably go back to the first story of how I started. So my introduction into mediumship was I was working at a salon in the city, and I walked into a tea shop, and I was just, shopping as you do. And then this woman comes up to me and she had a pendulum in her hand. And for those who don't know, pendulum, it's like a divination tool. And she was choosing a tea based on the pendulum for me. And at the time, I sort of thought she was a bit batshit crazy. And
did she work at the store?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
She did. She was the owner of the store.
Okay, yeah.
But I was also, there was a part of me that was thinking, what the hell's going on? But then there was another part of me that was mesmerized. And then, she chose a tea for me. I bought the tea. And then at the very end of that conversation, she goes to me, oh, we have a mediumship development circle starting here. Do you want to join? And I don't know what came over me. But I went, oh, okay, yes, I'll do it. And I remember going to that very first class, and it was run by an incredible medium named Kerry Alderuccio. And I thought, well, I'll do it, but I don't want to become one of those spiritual people. And how funny.
Yeah.
And then from there, I sort of I fell down the rabbit hole, became obsessed with learning about it, and then was doing some Googling and came across a medium named Tony Stockwell.
Yeah.
And then he had a conference, and so I just went, and then that's where I met Di.
So because Tony's from the UK, right? So has he moved here, or does he just do a lot of work in Australia?
No, just does a lot of work
Yeah.
here. I think that he's been coming here to do that conference for about 15 years.
Oh, okay, right. Is this the one that happened the other weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then turns out the year that I went, that was Diane's first year on the teaching team.
Oh, bullshit. Okay.
Yeah. And so I had a reading with her that week. And then, yeah, she said, oh, I actually have a circle that I run. Do you want to come? So the theme of my life, apparently. Yeah. And then I started going, and yeah, the rest is history, really.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
What about you?
Mine was an equally strange kind of thing. Oh, no, like, I guess my experience was a bit more, like, I was searching for something, because, yeah, for the past... like I've been kind of like on the spiritual journey for probably 10 years now. And like I think I've spoken to you about like Jane Roberts, and she was a psychic back in the 70s. And she was a channeler for this spirit called Seth, and they wrote 30 odd books or whatever. So I was really lucky that when I was, I don't know, like maybe 20 years old or something, my old man came across this stuff and like told me about it, and then I started reading it at the age of 20, which is like, you know, it's the most sophisticated knowledge on the universe there pretty much is in the books. And yeah, so I was able to kind of get a very early head start in learning about that kind of stuff. So it was always something that I've been doing and learning and practicing and everything. But eventually, yeah, I found myself in a position where I definitely wanted to start like facilitating, like just more or less like lifestyle or like healings of that kind of type. Just because, like, you know, with you know, our generation in particular, I think there's something I like talk about a lot, which is what I call like generation dissonance, which is where it's more or less like related to the rapid increase of technology as of the last, I don't know, 30 years or something, but it's increased so rapidly that there's a complete disassociation between the different generations now, whereas back in the day, you know, like a man might start like a carpentry business, and then his sons would do it, and their sons would do it, and it would be like you'd be able to teach the lessons you learned to the younger generation, and they would be able to apply it, whereas now, like, kids 5 years younger than us are living a completely different life than what we were. So, you know, entering this new age of technology, people don't seem to realize that we are the very first, like, civilization embarking on this. And due to that, you know, we're experiencing all the trials and tribulations of it. And not to mention all of the, you know, all the biases out there, and the, what do you call it, like the marketing and the, you know, all of the brainwashing that goes on with social media and all the targeting and everything. You know, people have been, you know, in a lot of ways, like, indoctrinated into believing in sickness and being unhealthy and all of this kind of stuff. And, you know, it's gotten to the point where, you know, when I meet people in public or outside, you know, just anywhere, like, I'm usually quite, like, taken back if they say that they're not, like, on some kind of medication or anything like that, which is just crazy. Because, you know, back in the 90s, if someone told you they were taking, like, some kind of medication or something, you'd be like, what? Like, whereas now that's the normal thing. And yeah, I just had, like, a lot of experiences with a lot of people, and like, I was involved for quite some time due to, like, being with certain partners and friend groups and stuff that, like, heavily involved in drugs and drug taking and partying and, like, all that fun stuff back in the day. But you know, after you're around it for quite some time, you notice just how poorly it's affecting all the people and how damaging it is. And yeah, I got to a point where I began to realize that I was quite different from everyone else, and that I, despite partaking in certain things, I was still able to completely separate it from myself, where I was able to just be like, oh no, like, I'm good. And, you know, like, just, I had the ability to choose whether I wanted to do these things rather than relying on them and all that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, over time, I kind of got to a point where, I realized that I wanted to create content or at least do something to help in some kind of way. And it wasn't actually until the lockdowns that I kind of really wanted to go on this path, because so long diversion of a story, but my favorite band of all time, Silosis, I'm actually wearing a Silosis singlet now. They were my favorite band for ages, but they were like a small, like progressive thrash metal band that just never made any money because it's just impossible to. But they were like the most talented musicians ever, and I was just like, how are these guys like so talented but like struggling to get by? And I had the bass player Carl on Facebook for a while, and used to talk to him here and there. And he eventually like left the band, and I didn't really like talk to him much. And I remember he got into like affiliate marketing for a bit, and that's just like selling products for other people and making a commission out of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like teach me how to do this. I want to make lots of money for doing nothing kind of thing.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and like, but I never committed to it because I just didn't have the passion for it. But fast forward a bunch of years. All the lockdowns happened, and then the mandates happened and all this kind of stuff, and everyone was like losing their jobs and shit was just like crazy. I remember one night I like just had this dream that he was in, and I was like, that's a weird dream. I wonder why, I thought of that. And quickly like hit him up on Facebook, and I was like, hey man, how you been, kind of thing. And I was like, and then like looked at his profile, and the dude had become like a multi-millionaire.
Wow.
And like had this he's like, oh yeah man, like he was like, oh, here's my website, like I watched this video, it'll explain what I do now. And in this video, like there's a video of like Tony Robbins talking about him, like
wow,
like crazy,
oh
like crazy successful
Whoa.
stuff. And I'm like, what the hell? And basically what he had learned to do is, with his affiliate marketing, what he was doing, basically he became successful in that, but the way he became successful was very interesting. Like he succeeded at it, but he kept sharing what he was doing to everyone and made a group and helped everyone like kind of learn about it, until he got to this point where he realized that he could teach other people how to do the same thing. So he ended up getting into the work of teaching people how to create courses, like online courses, how to sell them, but not how to just like create them, but how to create them and develop like an organic audience where you're not paying for ads or any of that kind of stuff. So his whole statement was, I can teach you how to make a course about something that you're passionate about and manage to sell it and help you, escape get financial freedom or make 6-figure months kind of thing. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. And so at that time I was like, yeah, man, like I want to kind of work for myself, because like the world's crazy at the moment. I don't know what the hell is going to go on. Like I might lose my job. I don't and I'd rather be able to make money for myself. And so, yeah, I kind of thought about it. I was like, yeah, man, I'll like kind of think about this. And, there were a couple of things that I thought about, because the main thing was, if you're like an expert in something, I can teach you how to make a course for it and sell it. And I was like, okay, well, like, what am I an expert in? I was like I'm pretty good at guitar, but I'm not like super like technically versed, and there's a million people doing guitar related stuff. I don't think that's what I really want to do. I was like, I know how to like climb trees and do arborist work, but that's not really something you can teach online. Like that is a very
yeah, you don't want to be teaching
that
online.
Like it's not, I don't think there would be a very big demographic for being able to make a high ticket product or something like that. And then I thought about it, and I was like, no, like the other thing that I'm really passionate about is like spirituality and like personal development and all this kind of stuff, because like due to what I had read and learned in the Seth material, and then I'd also like I've spent a lot of time taking psychedelics and exploring like all those kinds of realms and stuff, and applying the things that I learned into my life, but not just that, but being able to like teach that in a way where you don't need to use psychedelics or anything like that. Like you can do it all organically through meditation and developing your psychic intuition and everything. And I was like, man, that's like something that I know. And I know as well that like everyone my age is like pretty fucked mentally that I've come across. Like a lot of them are like people are like seriously lost. Like suicide rates are through the roof. Everyone's on antidepressants. Like everyone's like every female's like half of them are creating porn now. Like half the dudes are addicted to all this shit. Everyone's like doing drugs, or they're just doom scrolling, or they're just like binge watching TV and everything. And no one's fulfilled and no one's happy because of like how things are. And I was like, I've kind of figured this stuff out pretty well, and I feel like I can help a lot of people. So that's where I got into this idea of wanting to become like, I don't like the word spiritual teacher or mentor. I just like the idea of like just someone who's there to share information or create resources for it. And so I started creating this course about 3 years ago, and it had everything to do with like physical development, like lifestyle changes, like emotional health, sexual health, like creative health, like just everything. And then as I was creating it, there were a lot of things in it that I was like, hey, I don't actually do this myself.
Yes.
And I felt quite hypocritical trying to make money selling something that I didn't do myself. So I took some time to be like, okay, let's get myself into a place where I'm actually confident in what I'm saying and I am an authority on the things I'm trying to teach. And so I spent probably like 3 years just working at it here and there, but then also, working on my like arborist career to make sure I could support these things and doing stuff with music and just making sure that I could support everything that I wanted to at the same time. And then, a number of years went past and I got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm ready to do this, but I don't know quite how to market myself. I was like, just like a spiritual guy that like, you know what I mean? I didn't really know how to really market myself in that way. And so I started thinking about like possibly getting into like, what do you call it? Like therapy work or like mental counseling and all that kind of stuff. But then I was like, well, no, I don't like that because that's also kind of like the complete opposite of what I want to teach. I don't want to have people come in and label them with what's wrong with them and prescribe them like medications. Like my whole thing is that I want to teach people how to do this organically, how to like overcome depression and anxiety through intuitional meditations and all this kind of stuff. But I don't quite know how to market myself as that. And then I think, because I've always gone and gotten like readings and stuff, like tarot readings and all that. And I have this friend called Melissa Jo, and she's from, I think, Washington, D.C. And where I came across her is back in the day, I just had lots of different musicians and stuff on Facebook. And she used to like scream in this death metal band.
Amazing.
And then had her on Facebook, and then, because there's a pretty dedicated like Seth group on Facebook that I'm like highly involved with, and saw her post in there and I was like, wait, what is it? Like, I know this person, like I have her on my friends list, and saw that she was also like a student of the Seth material, and then her and I like connected and started talking a lot more. And so she's got like a qualification in Biddy Tarot, I think it is. Yeah. And so I got her to do a reading for me just online and everything, and it went for like ages and it was like super like complex and everything, and I was like, that was really sick. And so when I was kind of thinking about, all right, how would I be able to do like these one-on-one healings and sessions and stuff, I was like, oh, well, maybe like, I think it was more of a like, how do I convince people that I know what I'm talking about kind of thing. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll start with like doing tarot. And I was like, but I don't know how to do tarot. So I hit her up and I was like, hey, I'm looking at getting into tarot. Do you have any like links or resources you can send me? And she goes, oh yeah, sure thing. Sent me a whole bunch of stuff. And she's like, oh, and you should check this guy out, and sends me a link. And I click on it, and that was Sean Collins' website, which I'm like still yet to meet him, but I'm keen to. And I was like, oh, what's this? And then, started looking into his stuff more, and then I noticed like he's from Australia, and then there was even like an event that he did at Chelsea Beach at one point, and I was like, what the hell? Like this guy's like
local,
pretty much a local. And so I started looking into his website, and there was, I can't remember like the series of how this happened, but there was like a developing a psychic intuition course that he had. And I was like, oh, okay, like, no, sorry. I was following him on Instagram. That's right. I was following him on Instagram. And he made a video on Instagram saying, let's test your psychic intuition. Like, let's see kind of thing. And I was like, oh, yeah, fuck it. All right, I'll try this out. And he's in this video and he goes, all right, I'm going to hold up a crystal. And there's like this red crystal, I believe. And he's like, now I want you to just like focus on the crystal and like picture it in your third eye and in your brain and everything, and like close your eyes and just focus on the crystal, like how it feels, like how heavy is it, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, close my eyes doing this. And he's like, all right, now I'd like you to imagine like another crystal and allow that to come into your imagination and imagine like the complexity and how it looks and all this stuff. And I'm seeing this like this blue, like stormy purple, like crystal thing. And I was like, oh yeah, cool, like, you know, I've got this crystal in my mind. He's like, all right, now when you've got that crystal, he's like, I'd like you to open your eyes. I was like, all right. And he goes, is this the crystal you're looking at? And it was exactly the one that I had in my mind. And I was like, what the hell? And I was like, that's insane. I was like, that's really cool. And that was the first step toward me kind of developing. And then another one came up where he was like, all right, let's do like a remote viewing exercise. And he goes, I'm going to put the coordinates of a location. And right away I was like, it's the pyramids. And I was like, it's probably just too obvious because I've got them tattooed on my fingers and stuff. And I was like, it's probably just like me just assuming. And he's like, all right, well, I'm going to put up the coordinates. I'm like, nah, it's like, it couldn't be, like, it's too obvious kind of thing. And then he's like, if you're thinking of the pyramids, you are absolutely correct. Like, more specifically, the Sphinx and the Pyramid of Giza and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, holy shit, like, the first one, like, fair enough, but that is like, I'm becoming more convinced of these skills. And then, I went and bought one of his courses, which was like, developing a psychic intuition. And I was like, all right, like, I'll go through this thing. And I'm going through this course and it's a whole bunch of videos and I'm like 70% through it. And I just have this moment where I'm like, I haven't learnt anything. Like, I literally do all of this. I didn't realize that this is what psychic abilities are.
Yes.
And then got to the end of it and there were a couple of like exercises, and then if you bought that, there was another one that was like had a discount on it that you could purchase, which was like it was like advancing a mediumship one as well. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to, like, I didn't even have the money for it. I was like, I'm just going to buy this. Like, I just, I feel like I need to do this. And downloaded that, and that was a joint one that him and Diane did. And in that, they did a whole bunch of things, and there were a whole bunch of different, like, they went through the ethics of mediumship and all of that kind of stuff. A couple of meditations, how to, like, heighten your senses just through, or like rapidly increase your senses just by going through meditations and stuff. And then there were a couple of like clairvoyant type things, but the one that like really got me was the end one, where they're like, all right, this is like the last challenge we're going to do, and we're going to see, like, test your mediumship skills. And like, we're going to put up like an image of a man on the screen, and there's just like this old bloke on the screen. I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean?
You're like, I have gone crazy.
Yeah, I'm just like sitting there, like, because this thing went for like 3 hours, and I'm there like 2.5 hours deep, and I'm like, oh my god, like am I just going crazy at this point? And like, I'd like you to just like focus on this man and just feel what his energy is, like what his personality is. And I was like, all right, like just trying kind of thing, and closing my eyes and kind of go inward and picture myself like on this boat in the ocean somewhere. And I was like, well, this isn't the right place, like, clearly, like, I don't know, like what I'm imagining here. And I was like, I'm just gonna go out and like try again, I guess. And then closed my eyes, like went back in, and I was like, again, like on a ship in like the high seas kind of thing, like really turbulent, and turn around and this dude's there. And I was like, all right, I guess maybe I'm supposed to be here. Like, it must be, maybe he was like a sailor or something. I don't know. and I was like, yeah, he was like showing me around, and I was getting to know the guy, and he seemed like super friendly. And then they said, and then I think Sean was like, and can you guess like how he passed away? And immediately I was like, that's cancer. Like it just,
Wow.
it immediately came to me. And yeah, then afterwards they're like, all right, yeah, that's the end of the thing. And then Sean was like, that was my grandfather who passed away a number of years ago. He was like, really lovely guy. If you got anything to do with boats, you were 100% correct. He was a sailor and a boat maker and all this kind of stuff. And he died from bowel cancer. And I was like, shit, all right. Like, I'm not like imagining this now. Like, this is confirmed that I've actually got this ability or this gift. Or like, I won't call it a gift because it's something you develop. Like, everyone has it, you know what I mean? And then after that, ended up coming across a different medium who ended up kind of like working with, but things didn't quite work out. And then after that, I think one of Diane's posts came up on my Facebook about the mediumship group. And it was like, so in a way it kind of found me, but I was like continuously searching for it. And then, yeah, I remember coming to the first class and I was like, I don't know what to expect here. And like walk in and it was like me and like 24 women. And I was just like,
literally.
And everyone's just like, looks at me, I'm like, oh man, like this is interesting. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna like kind of
You're like, what the fuck
here.
have I gotten into?
And then I think the following class I met Adam and I was like, all right, there's another one. Like
another guy.
I'm not the only guy
one.
here. But it was it was super cool, and like just how affordable the classes are and like how long they go for, and it's just like, it's just nuts. And then, you know, you like, I think the coolest thing as well is that, you know, there's a lot of people like you and like, you know, like Yvette and like the rest who are actually like practicing mediums as well. So it's like, cool, I just get to get like readings for free readings for like hours here while like practicing and everything. But yeah, the classes are so sick.
I think it's just so amazing being around like-minded people.
Yeah. Something happened there.
Yeah. Did it turn off?
I don't know, I'll have a look. It may have, but what's going on with you? The movie you recorded has exceeded the 4 gigabyte. It was split into 2 files. Okay, thank you.
Cool.
It's probably just going to keep doing that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just so amazing being around like-minded people. Yeah. And I think, I feel everything that you've covered so far, I can really resonate with what you're saying. And I do feel that in the mediumship world, the thing that's hard about it, right, is that there's no board that's telling, and also there's no board that's telling you like this is what should or shouldn't be the guideline, right? And that's a great thing. It's very empowering because you're free to work in the way you want to work. But then also it can be quite disempowering because, like you said, there's nothing tangible to go off. And so you do need to find your mentors and the people that really resonate with you. And then when you meet those like-minded people, you're like, oh my God. And then also when you start doing development, and I know it's something that comes up with my students or even in reading sometimes, like I'll be doing the reading and then the person will say, oh yeah, I sort of knew all of that. And I'm like, great, that's a good thing because, you know, you really shouldn't be told things that, you know, come out of nowhere because it's about your intuition, understanding yourself. And with development classes, I feel like a part of us knows that, oh yeah, like this does feel right because it's an innate part of all of us.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, like clairvoyancy and mediumship and all this kind of stuff, like you're really just telling people what they already know in a big way. They're just not aware of it. And it's like, like the thing that, like a good comparison I like to make with mediumship as well is because, like, you know, because you are using an entire new set of like inner muscles, you know what I mean? And then you have to learn how to use them. But it's tricky because like I think something that helped me kind of make a lot more sense of it is because I'm like a vocalist and everything. when it comes to learning how to sing, it's not like a guitar where someone can tell you, oh, just put your finger on the 5th fret and it's all sorted. Like, it's an organic tissue muscle that you have to figure out how to use for yourself. And like, you know, we can all sing, but we all sound different, and it all works in different ways for one another to reach whatever notes and melodies we need. And it's the exact same with mediumship, but it's just like, it's just a lot less limited. It's just like,
sky's the limit.
Like, there's so much. It's non-physical. But yeah, it's so much fun. And again, like, once I kind of, like, when I found like Di's group and everything, like, when I got there, I was like, okay, like, this is where I've been needing to like end up. Because yeah, just like, all the people are amazing. Like, super amazing. Like, you can't really, there's not really anything negative to say about anyone there, and they're all like, everyone is so like giving with their time as well, and their knowledge. Like, there's no sense of any kind of like competition whatsoever involved with any of it. And then as well, like, every now and then, like, you get to see Diane go on a tangent of her own, and you're just like, oh,
it's mesmerizing, and you just watch and you're like, oh, so beautiful.
I think the best one that like we both saw was when she's talking about the letterbox being the starting point, and the next thing you know, she's like figured out where the house is, the street number, like that there was a paddock on the other side of the place. It was upstairs. I was just like, what the hell?
Wow. Yeah.
But also like watching her do it in real time. You know what I mean?
It's phenomenal.
Like,
and
it's crazy.
I think as well, what's so cool about mediumship, and something that I wish more people were talking about, is that it affects every part of your life in such a positive way, right? And that, you know, for example, starting dancing, I don't have a dance background. I've always admired dancers, but always thought, oh, I can't do that. And in mediumship, there's that constant theme that comes up around trust and letting go, right? And the more that you try to go, I want to get it, and this is what I want, and you try to control the situation, the less that you receive that is accurate. And then the second that you go, okay, whatever, let's let it go, let's see what happens, I feel like I'm making it up, I don't know if I'm on the right track, then the person goes, yeah, that makes complete sense, and you're like, really? What the fuck? And I know for me, you know, in my life, when I come to challenges, that if I can just pause and come back to the flow of the situation and go, okay, well, whatever is going to happen is going to happen, then the alignment comes, right? And it's like, it's such a beautiful skill that everybody has, because when we can learn to trust and let go, that's when we can live the life that we want to live. And you know, just speaking on what you were saying about technology and our generation, right? Like, we all have it at our fingertips. Like, whatever we want, it's right there. And I think in some ways that's empowering, but then in other ways, a lot of people have become completely detached from being able to allow things to happen and be patient. Right? We want everything immediately.
Yeah, patience is a huge one.
Yeah. and spirit work is that. It's a lot of patience.
And that's, like, even... Yeah, I'm very against just like the Zoomer attention span kind of thing, and like, it's just so unhealthy. Like, even with even like with the podcast and like the things I'm trying to do, like, even like I've shown you my music, like it goes for a long period of time. It's like, that's kind of very much my own way of standing against this short attention span thing, because even with like all kinds of businesses and even for artists and everything, like there's always this thing of like, you need to create these 5-second reels to get the attention and the attention, this and all that. And it's just like, it takes away from what the art actually is, because you don't spend 100 hours creating something just to try and market it to someone in a few seconds. Like, it's meant to be taken in properly. But yeah, like the world's chaos at the moment. It's wild. Like, it's actually wild.
Oh gosh, that's such a wormhole, isn't it? It's like, oh gosh, where do we start with that?
But that's, again, like, that's why I wanted to create this podcast as well, because, like, as I said, it's called like Redefining Spirituality, and like, I say this in, I think, every episode, but when I talk about spirituality, like I'm not talking about, astrology and, even mediumship or any of this kind of stuff. Like I'm talking about, spirituality being the pursuit of the spirit, and the spirit being, the non-physical energy that, embodies yourself. And so like when I talk about spirituality, I'm talking about like the pursuit of the self, because as you develop the self more and you become more aware of what you are as human, and then again, like through developing and learning meditation and, discovering our psychic heritage, that's how you begin to like understand the world, how it really is, that there is like not just like not an opposite, but like not just a yin and a yang, but like an infinite amount of, territory to explore, really. I had something else I was going to say as well. And that's another thing as well. Like, I think another like kind of something that I try and touch on a lot as well is this weird relationship between like masculinity and femininity these days. Like there's these people who are like, you have to be like an alpha male and like, like the Andrew Tate type people.
Yep.
And then there's, like the feminine side where they're like, oh, empowerment through, like owning your body and doing all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, I feel like a lot of it, like both ends of the spectrum of quite heavily rooted in, not like hatred, but like disfavor for the other sex in a lot of ways.
Yes. I couldn't agree more with you.
And, like something that has helped me like succeed tremendously in like everything that I do is, because I think like the issue that people have is that they associate feminine behavior, femininity with female, whereas it's not quite that, it's quite something different. And the way that I look at like, this was why like I was so shocked coming into the mediumship circle, because I walked into that and I was like, okay, I'm the only guy here. Like this is, and then like, and not just like a few women, but like lots of women.
And majority in most spaces.
And because the truth is that like psychic intuition is the most feminine trait you can have. It is the pure emotional non-physical state. Whereas say like mixed martial arts and climbing trees and doing all this kind of stuff, that's the most masculine thing you can do. So like masculinity is, what's the word for it? Like, becoming good at or like owning the physical, and like femininity is the non-physical, like the physical and the emotional. So, the reason I am where I'm at in my life is because like I've always been aware that I'm a much more naturally feminine person, and like I went down the physical path. Like there was a point in life where I was like, I need to like cut my hair off and like do all this physical stuff, and I like shaved my hair and was going out on the weekends with the guys and drinking and doing lines of coke and like going on Tinder and like just all the bloke stuff. Grew a beard, like like this the whole thing. Took all my stretches and my piercings out and everything, and started buying clothes from fucking Kiss Chasey and like just tried to fit the masculine stereotype. And although I was like looked good and managed to do it, it felt so wrong to me the whole time. And I felt like I'd be talking to people and I'd be like, oh man, like this is back when I had long hair, and like I was always thinking back to how I used to do things. And I got to the point where I was like, the fuck am I doing? Like this clearly is not
who am I? This is not in alignment.
This is clearly not who I am. And I was like, I started listening to all the music I used to listen to, because I had a very vivid idea of who I wanted to become when I was like 17 years old. And I feel like tapping back into who I was back then to be like, I loved all this shit and I liked having tattoos and piercings and doing this and looking this way. And I just feel like at that age I definitely had a much like wiser idea of who I wanted to be, because I wasn't like...
You were in authenticity to you.
Yeah, and as well, like in high school, I was like just that weird dude. Like I was an exile pretty much. Like I didn't have any friends in high school. I just walked around listening to my iPod all day. And, I was doing the things that kind of gave me comfort, which was like music and art and all of that. And so when I had that realization of like, no, like I need to like trust my intuition and stop listening to all these people. And, because again, being in tree work, like highly, like, extremely masculine trade, like the like the people in it are like crazy. And being a part of that, trying to fit into that, it just never fit for me. And it wasn't until I actually like grew my hair back out and like stretched my ears again and got my piercings and started like playing certain kinds of music and just like stopped trying to deny my natural impulses. It wasn't until I started having like I could sense the shift in the way people perceived me and treated me. Like people were more naturally, like they gravitated naturally toward me and wanted to get to know me more and all of that. But that was the thing, like as I said, like I knew that I was like naturally a lot more feminine, but that's why I do extremely masculine things, because I know that there has to be that balance to it. And and it's cool because like now I'm in this very unique position where I know that there aren't many people who have like what's the word for it? Like there aren't many guys who look like me and do the things I do and carry on the way that I do and like, do all these like, martial arts and hit the gym and climb trees and play death metal and do all this kind of stuff, who are also in the spirit realm as well. Like it's a very unique position to be in, and I think that it's quite healthy as well, because like not to change the subject too far again, but so with because I did have another mentor for a short amount of time, when I was involved with her and everything that she did, I was like exposed to just how deep and prevalent sexual abuse to women is. Like it was like, because like every woman's had some kind of like sexual experience, like every single one has, but in this group, like she did a few demonstrations and groups of people and did like channeled spirit for 30 people at a thingo, and did that a few times, and I went to each of them, and like each time I was absolutely like mortified by not just how many people had gone through sexual abuse, but the extent of how heavy it was. And it was, like blew my mind. Like I had no idea. And then after that, I kept finding myself in situations where I was meeting people who had gone through that. And the main thing about it all is that like obviously it was obviously like the men were the issue in their lives and everything, but the choices that they had then gone to make in their lives and were like so deeply rooted toward projecting was due to hatred for men. And it just creates this absolutely bizarre, like unhealthy, toxic kind of relationship between them all. And I found that in each of these groups that I found myself in, very quickly the women I was around were just like, what's the word for it? Like they just very quickly expressed how safe they felt with my presence being there, which was like very humbling as well, because that's, to know like being told that you make women feel safe is a very like, it's like the ultimate kind of compliment. But that became definitely like a focus of mine after kind of going through all that. And it was like, okay, like there's a major issue that's going on here. So it, it's kind of become this thing of mine where I initially thought that I'd more or less be relating to like young men, because I'm a former young man who knows of those struggles, but very quickly I realized that there is a much larger issue at bay with just with like women and the shit they've been through, and their like the complexities of healing from that, along with everything that's involved with technology and social media and, you know, whatever agendas have been set forth to further divide everyone. But it's, yeah, I don't really know how I got onto that subject, but like, it was just like, yeah, as I said, like within my old like mediumship kind of community, like that just got brought up in a crazy, like intense way. And I was like, holy shit, like.
It's such a massive topic,
yeah,
isn't it?
It's huge.
I think as a woman, it is the deep hatred that I see that other women have for men. I find it really, really sad because there are so many beautiful people out there that their intentions are good. And, you know, just speaking on what you were talking about around exploring different sides of ourselves, I, you know, grew up in a beautiful family that taught me, you know, have a good work ethic, work very hard. And so I was very much into my work, pushing myself, you know, building my career up. And then I hit this sort of point of burnout. And when I started on my spiritual journey, I was exploring a bit more of that, you know, traditionally feminine sort of things. I started running ecstatic dances and going to, you know, big women's circles and things like that. And I think that there was a real period in my life and my healing that I needed to be around lots of women, like-minded women, understand that I had a lot of apprehension around being around women and, you know, lots of wounds, sisterhood wounds, these sorts of things, right? And, you know, I would go do these big, you know, experiences and scream for 3 hours at a time and cry and cry and cry and cry. And, you know, I thought that was healing. And in some ways it was. But actually, I reached a point on my personal development journey where I was going to things like that all of the time, multiple times a week. And I had it reflected back to me that it was like, Beck, you're doing all this healing stuff that's supposedly supposed to be, you know, very feminine, and but you're getting worse mentally. And I think that it really highlighted to me that even in these spiritual communities, there's such a segregation and division of, well, this is what you need to do to be a woman, and this is what femininity means. And actually, what has made me feel, I truly feel now that I'm the most me that I have been, right? And it's been coming back to, you know, I understand my emotions. I can feel into my intuition, but also there needs to be the presence of structure and discipline and routine and all of this stuff. You know, femininity is not just sort of sitting on the couch and I'm in flow, right? Actually, it is incredibly empowering to go, well, here is what I want in my life. You know, let's use my intuition. How can I create that? And exactly right, the assertiveness. And I feel like when we understand that we don't need to label these aspects of us and that all of it intertwines into creating the best version of ourselves, I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And I do feel that I see so many people struggling with their mental health. And I really resonate with the message you're trying to put out there because, you know, there was, when I was getting into the depths of what I felt was spirituality at the time, I was so depressed. And actually coming back to that part of me, which for me was that inner teenager, a lot of that, you know, love my music, love expressing myself, you know, tapping back into that and not trying to suppress the parts of ourselves that might be seen as, you know, a bit more on the fringes, right? And embracing all of it, this is what really helped me move forward. And I feel like when people are struggling with their mental health, it's because they're constantly needing to focus on who they need to be to fit the mold of what they've been told they need to be.
And that's exactly it, yeah. And that's and again, like one of the key things that I've discovered, and like, which is like pretty much like one of the main foundations of the things that I try to like share, is that, you know, the way that, like, I don't know how am I trying to explain this, the level of like, just, I guess, like indoctrination that people have gone through to believe that they're meant to exist in this system the way that it is and do these certain things, like that's ultimately like the leading cause of feeling depressed. Because at the end of the day, like, we all incarnate into human life to experience what it is to be human, and the whole purpose of that is to express yourself in the most like individual way that you can. And so when you're, you know, being told to wear certain brands of clothes or dress a certain way or do all this kind of stuff, like, that's inherently against what our inner nature is. And so, you know, when it comes to people being depressed, like, people view depression as being this like this horrible sickness that just like attaches itself to you. And something that like really shits me about just the way that even like the mental health system or the medical system works is that they label you with all of these things. Like, they label you being depressed or having borderline personality disorder or having ADHD or like all this kind of stuff. And they label you with all these things. But the problem is with that is that we've been trained to like trust medical professionals, been trained to like trust all these things. And when your belief system is based around trusting what these like authorities say, if they tell you that there is something wrong with you, you're going to believe it because you're being taught to.
It becomes your identity.
And once you believe that there is something wrong with you, then you no longer are in control of it. Like, it's not your problem anymore because it's something out of your control. And that's where the issue really begins, because then they have an excuse. You know, oh, I have this, so therefore my behavior, and that's where the issue starts with. Whereas the truth is that these labels that are put on you are not necessarily real. A lot of them are results of trauma. Like, even, you know, a lot of people who have been like diagnosed with ADHD have been through a lot of trauma in their earlier lives, and due to that, they're constantly got their flight or flight switch engaged, and that causes this hyperfixation on things because of that, like, that anxiety of trauma being able to come through. Like, even you know, and like when we get into like borderline personality disorder, like, I don't believe in that at all, because they're saying like there are, like, the way that I view these sicknesses and the way that they work is that it's not that like you have something wrong with you, it's that there are a series of things that are going wrong with you that have collected into a certain condition that you've found yourself in. And like, you could, like, not the best example, but like, say you have a car and you never change the oil on it, you never like change the spark plugs, you never do the filters, you never do anything. Like, the car's slowly going to get to a point where it just degrades to the point where it's not really functioning properly. But it's not, you don't get the car and be like, oh, it's got this disorder. You go, okay, well, these areas have all been neglected for a very long time and has resulted in this. But if you work on each of these things again and restore the car back to its original condition, that disorder is no longer a thing. And that's exactly how it works with all these mental disorders. It's that, you know, a lot of these people are already like depressed. Most of them have been through some kind of abuse growing up. A lot of them don't take care of themselves, take drugs, don't exercise properly, like, they doom scroll, don't sleep properly, eat poorly. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that contribute to something like this happens. And you can kind of go up and say, oh yeah, but there's like a chemical imbalance in the brain or something like that. But the thing is that the mind creates matter, and if you're in a negative space, the mind's going to react in certain ways that will have physical results that science can physically pick up on. But that's not the impetus for what the issue is.
It's the result of a bunch of different factors over time.
Because we do manifest reality based on our beliefs. That's why there are so many different people in the world. Like that's how it works, and that's where this all initiates, is that it comes from the non-physical multidimensional realities from which we've all incarnated from into physical reality, and that's how we navigate our lives, again, like in the pursuit of experiencing being human to its fullest capacity. So when I like talk about that, when people talk about like depression and anxiety and all this kind of stuff, the truth is that depression and anxiety, they're not things that are just thrust upon you for no reason. It's not out there and you just catch it. That's your soul's method of telling you that you're on the wrong path. And so when you change it from being this horrible fucking thing that you're always dealing with to something that's actually trying to help you get to a better point in your life, then you get the power back. Like then you can go, okay, why am I feeling depressed? Why am I feeling anxious? And like, again, there's a stack of journals like right there, like that is the last like 5 or 6 years of my life. Like I have my entire like last 5 or 6 years documented in my journals and everything. And that's why like I feel journaling is such a powerful thing to do, because it allows you to, you know, like open a dialogue with yourself. It's, okay, how am I feeling? And when you're writing and you're not focused on anything else and you're just like, you know, in that feedback loop, you really get to understand what's going on in your mind with clarity, and you also feel like writing with your intuition as well. And it's such a basic thing. Like, you know, for example, someone feels depressed and they go, okay, well, why do I feel depressed? And the first thing that comes to their mind is, oh, because I don't like how I look. Like, that's an awesome place to start, because there's a solution to that. It's like, okay, why don't you like how you look? They might say, oh, because I'm overweight and, you know, these certain things. You go, okay, cool. Like, there's a scientifically proven way to change how you look. Like, you eat better, you sleep better, you go to the gym, and you begin working on that area of your life. And as you work on that area of your life, you'll begin to improve your mood. Your, you know, obviously like the physical and non-physical co-working, whatever the word is, but like, you know, your physical health and your mental health is a reflection of one another. So start taking care of yourself physically, your mental health will improve. You'll be able to start seeing with more clarity. You'll be able to, you know, pick up on your intuitional urges more and figure out what these other things that are making you feel depressed, and it will slowly push you to a place where you're excited about your life opposed to being like anxious about things. But yeah, it's like trying to explain that to a large, I think I was going to leave the camera on, but you know, explaining that in a large way to a lot of people is quite difficult, because, you know, to develop yourself and to take that step, you have to confront yourself with what you're hiding from.
Exactly right. And I was just about to say, well, it's very confronting, right? Because there is definitely a need in our world for, you know, those movements that are like, you can be exactly who you are and love yourself. And I see it and it's beautiful. However, it's a line, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, I can love myself exactly where I'm at, but I can still want better for myself.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate the life that I have and be grateful for it, but I can still choose to want more. And I do feel that, you know, a lot of people looking for someone to blame.
Yeah.
And the thing is about developing our own abilities, our intuition, mediumship, all of it. It forces us to confront ourselves and what's going on internally, because if we don't, and, you know, for anyone who is wanting to develop their own abilities, maybe to help other people, if you develop them but you don't look at your relationship with yourself, you'll continuously come up against roadblocks, and you will continuously make it about your ego and, you know, well, look how good I am, right? But it's not about that. It's about being able to understand yourself on the most deep level. And this is a piece where I feel that the more that we can embody the person we want to be in our lives, and, you know, we all have that vision in the future of, this is who I think I want to be, right? And it's like, well, stop looking at that external to you as It's not the person that's in the fucking mala beads and like the white clothes. It's actually it's about all the day-to-day habits of that person, and knowing that everything that we need is within us and accessible to us, but it requires us to do work to get there. It is all within us, but we're not going to get there just sitting on the couch. You have to actually do the things that challenge you. And I feel that we're in a world now where everything is easeful in many ways. It's like, okay, I want food, I'm going to order it on my phone, right? Yeah. I want anything. It can be at my door in one day, right? But actually, the gift of spiritual development is that we have to work on it. And the beauty of it is when you go, fuck, I'm such a different person to who I used to be. I don't align with that person anymore. It's because you did the work. No one else can do it for you.
Yeah.
And it's a gift that so many people don't give themselves because they're waiting for someone else to do it and tell them.
But I think it's good as well though, because you can, like, the bonds that you make with people who have gone through that growth are a lot stronger. You know what I mean? Like, I know that when I was, just partying and doing whatever and wasn't really like developing myself, like I had these great friends, and the next thing I know, like, fully betrayed by them, and just like it was just chaos all the time, and you really couldn't quite trust. Like, you can't trust people when you're in that realm, because when there's that, like, because the truth is that, like, going inward and developing yourself, that's an act of like self-love, and the way that personally I've become a lot more like discerning and assertive in my life is that I've worked so heavily on my ability to love myself and just being at peace with myself, that whenever anything comes into my world that disturbs that, I have the ability to be like, well, no, like, that's not serving me. Whereas when you don't have that self-love and, you're at this lower vibrational rate, it's a lot easier to become tempted by things because it brings you excitement, or and that's why
it's the next quick fix, right?
Yeah, and that's even I wrote a post a while back about like addiction, which I felt was a really important thing, because I just had this like, when you just have like an epiphany, you're like, oh my God, I have to tell everyone.
I need to put this somewhere.
And the whole premise of it was just that that like addiction it can be like a superpower if you want it to, like, because a lot of people say, oh, I have an addictive personality, like all this kind of stuff. It's like, that's a good thing. Like, that is an amazing thing. You just need to become addicted to the right things, because when you're existing at a low vibrational rate, say when you do like a line of coke or you get drunk or something like that, because you're at this low vibrational rate, and the reason you're there is because you're not doing like soul nourishing activities. You just like might work a job or not work a job at all, playing PlayStation, watching Netflix, and just like smoking bongs, or like, just doing nothing, because you don't have any soul nourishing like fulfillment coming in. You're at that low rate, and that's why you're feeling depressed, because you're not living your life essentially. And there are these certain like tools and drugs, like, and I believe that even cocaine is a tool that you can use, but it's one of those things where anything is good in moderation depending on what desirable outcome you have. But they do a line of coke and it brings them from this rate to like this rate up here all of a sudden, so it's very tempting to do that because it launches you up into this other thing. But the come down's different as well, and getting into fights and being a part of drama and playing video games, it's all exciting because it's stimulating for you in a way, because your life is so like bland. You're not doing anything. But the more you actually like listen to your intuition, you think, okay, well, what are the things I want to do? So for example, like playing music, you start practicing music, maybe you save some money to like build a small studio and release a song. Like, the fulfillment that you feel from doing that is incredible. And the more you figure out the things that you like to do with your life, and like, for example, with my own, like, I climb trees for a living, I play in a metal band, you know, I've got my dogs, I've got motorbikes, 4-wheel drives, like, you know, all these things, like even this podcast and the spiritual content that I create, like these are all like extremely fulfilling things to me, and I'm addicted to doing them because I know like how good it feels, and like because of all these things that I do, it's raised my frequency to up here. So like when I am come across like playing video games or like anything like that, the high that it gives to someone down here is significantly higher than what I have. And I know that if I were to play video games for a day straight, the amount of fulfillment that I'm missing out on from doing the soul nourishing activities that I have is not worth it to me. It drains me rather than actually gives me some enjoyment. Same with doing party drugs. Like I don't actually enjoy them. They don't make me feel good anymore because my life is already so exciting and fulfilling and fun. So that's, you know, ultimately the way to like escape being depressed, is to find like these soul nourishing activities that you do, because, you know, I think people are so like just turned off the idea of trying to chase them because of how big the dream is. But the thing is that the dream's big because it's worth it. Like nothing worth achieving is easy to get. That's the whole point of it. Like
totally.
Like no one, and again, like as you were saying, as you like develop yourself, like that's the reward of the development, is that you do separate yourself from the masses, and you manage to connect with a whole bunch of other people who have also done the same thing.
And you know, I think as well, I know something I used to struggle a lot with was comparison. You know, oh, that person's doing that and that person's doing that, and what if I should be like this? What if people think this about me? But actually, it sounds so obvious, but I had someone say it to me once, and I don't know, I was in the right state to hear it. Like, you're never going to be someone else, no matter how hard you try. You are actually never, ever going to be anyone else. So the more that you try to be someone else, you're just falling away from who you could be. And you're right, because like when you develop yourself, the love that you feel, you know, I truly would never want to be anybody else anymore. And I don't want to be, you know, I like the things that I like, and that's cool. And I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and that's cool, right? and that's the best part, is you're not trying to, every situation you're in, oh, how can I mold myself to be somebody else? And when you get to a point in your life where you can stand strong in, well, I am who I am, and, you know, if you don't like it, that's fine, but I'm not going to change myself or lower my standards. It comes from deeply understanding yourself and knowing that, you know, you can be in situations and how it affects you physically and emotionally and spiritually. And it's just so worth it when you think about, you know, instead of scrolling, looking at what everybody else is doing, what is it that you want to do and what makes you feel good? And as long as you chase that in small ways, and I really feel that big goal that we all have, we feel it so strongly and intensely because it is already ours. It's our intuition saying, well, this is coming. This is your future potential. How are you going to move towards it? And you know, this is where trust and spirit comes in, because we don't need to know the exact plan. It feels so massive. It's like, oh my God. But we don't need to know the full plan, but we need to trust that the plan is there and that it's coming. But we need to take action in our everyday life. Who can I be in this moment to get towards that? You know, it doesn't always have to be, you know, some big 100-step thing, but okay, well, today, is it more beneficial for me to spend time in nature, cook for myself, go to the gym, whatever it is, or, you know, am I just going to sit here and feed into a show, somebody else's life? And I think it's just about finding the balance between being a human and also understanding that at core that we are spiritual beings, and we're here to live a human experience. We don't need to be, you know, meditating for 10 hours at a time and like leaving our body, you know, all the time. But then we also need to look at our day-to-day lives. And that's where all the magic is. It's in the everyday and the mundane. It's not in the big highs and lows. And you even look at how they market things, right, to us. You know, when you learn about marketing and advertising, they're always trying to tick those cool boxes of, you know, you might see a beer ad. It's like, oh, look, there's people having fun. They're partying together. Connection. Oh, I want that. If I buy that, I'll have that. Or, you know, clothing. Oh, if I put that, you know, we've all done it. You see something and you buy it because you feel like you'll be someone different if you buy that. But it's not going to do anything if you're not choosing to actively embody and move through.
Well, at the end of the day as well, like, it's not what you wear, it's how you wear it.
Yeah,
too.
It's about your inner expression. And so all of these tools that we have available to us are so fab. You know, we do have the clothing and the different things and ways to express ourselves, but we need to come back to a place of caring and loving ourselves enough to do what's best for us, not what everybody else says is the right thing. Yeah,
and this is good because you touched on something. I was like, oh, I can bring this whole thing full circle now. When you were talking about, again, like your purpose and everything, he said like it already exists and you just have to like put in the work to get it. So this is like my personal like method of manifesting is that, so basically, I'm not too sure like how much you've looked into it, but the whole concept of like probable realities and everything. So the best way to explain is that like in third dimensional reality, we're like obviously got the limitations of time and space, like, and that's intentionally created because without that, we wouldn't be able to make mistakes, which would lead to new opportunities and new challenges and new growth, right? But with our higher self who exists, or you can even like refer to it as your like the self you are in the dream state, let's say, that exists within like the multidimensional reality, that version of us has access to like everything. Like it can create realities within like the blink of an eye. And, you know, higher self is the one who chose to put forth not just our personal incarnation, but our entire incarnational cycle, but has a very, not like a very specific idea, but it has a very desirable outcome for what it wants us to achieve in our lives. And that is the main driver behind what we feel excited about, what we feel depressed about, all this kind of stuff. And so the reason, like, again, like mediumship is so amazing, and, you know, even like clairvoyancy and just developing your inner abilities and your psychic abilities, is that when you are working in mediumship and in these psychic areas, you're operating from your higher self's point of view, because that's the part of yourself that's in contact with everything. And the more you develop your relationship with your higher self, the more ability you'll have to manifest, because through communication with your higher self, it's like, it kind of gets into like, I guess like fate or like free will, but there's a communication where you still have free will over what you want to do, because the higher self doesn't have an ego, you do, and you're the one playing this game. But through meditation and through the dream state and setting your intention and, again, like focusing on that future version of yourself, when you do these things and you meditate upon it and you focus upon, say, you know, where you want to end up, what you want to do for work, how you want to look, who your partner might be, or like who your friends are, what pets you have, when you begin to hyper focus on that and meditate upon it and, you know, essentially like plant the seeds for that to happen, there's like, I won't say the word cosmic, there's a shift that happens within you, within your psyche, within your entire vessel, all the way up to your higher self, that shifts and becomes the language that your higher self communicates to you through. So if you want to become, you know, like the world's most renowned medium, let's say, if you focus upon that and truly put your intention into it and truly want that, your higher self will, and, you know, obviously there's a million things that needs to be done, but your higher self will then be able to, like, your higher self knows how to get there, and it will send you intuitional messages of how to do it. And, you know, for myself, I have a lot of like desires that I want to do, like obviously with my music and with my spiritual teachings and with the podcast and, you know, just everything that I want to do. Like the vastness of what I'm trying to achieve is beyond complicated, where it's not necessarily something that I can even plan steps to achieving. But what I do is, like, because I have this relationship developed with my higher self who does know how to get there, I simply just trust my higher self and trust the universe to help guide me to where I want to get. And I focus my day-to-day stuff on the set task that I feel desirable for. Like, for example, you know, I have this course that I'm developing that filmed the whole thing, got all this stuff happening, and I'm pretty much ready to set it up and get it going. But I woke up in the morning, like a while back, and it was like, no, you should set up this room and go in this direction first. And it was like, just telling me not to worry about it for the time being. Like, yes, I could focus on that and make a lot more money very quickly, but it was telling me that in the grander scheme of things, like, this is what I need to focus on at this point in time, and I trust it. And, you know, it's one of those things, again, going back to the short attention span. Like, this is not a short game to play. Like, it takes years and years and years.
Yeah.
But once you're on it and once it's developing, it's almost like you don't have to do anything anymore. It just...
It's where the trust comes in.
Yeah, it does it for you.
And I think as well, something I always teach about intuition is that your intuition is going to only give you the next aligned step.
Yeah.
And if you continue to ignore it, well, you're going to feel lost and stuck because your intuition is not going to give you the 10-step plan.
Yeah.
It's one thing at a time. Because can you imagine how overwhelmed you'd feel if it was like, here's the million things you're going to do in your life, and the pressure you would feel, right? It's like, it's so beautiful because we can ebb and flow and enjoy our life, and we just focus on that next step. And, you know, it is so beautiful because you can see how just taking one little step at a time, like, it removes so much pressure, and that's when we live the life that we want.
Yeah, there's something I was going to say. I can't remember. There were two things I was going to say. I was going to say one thing and then you said something and I was like, oh, I'll take on that. But I think that's, like, yeah, again, something else that I'd like something that kind of shits me a little bit about the spiritual community as well is, like, the amount of, like, misinformation given to it, because it's like obviously, like, we're in a really great time where so many people are, like, waking up and becoming more aware and, like, entering spirituality, but it's almost like it's become a new religion in a lot of ways, where there's a lot of and I won't say, like, I'm not going to say wrong information, but definitely, like, limiting information, because when we're talking about, like, spirituality, it's all based upon what you believe and your intention and all that kind of stuff. And so when you're told certain things about spirituality or just about the universe and stuff like that, like, if you believe it, you are going to experience that. So it's kind of tricky with a lot of these people, because, you know, I see a lot of stuff about, like, you know, even with just all the chaos that's happening in the world. Like, I see so many people talking about how there's, like, multi-dimensional entities trying to, like, control us and, like, steal our DNA and, like, all this crazy shit. And it's like, man, like, and
why do you want to play in realms of fear like that?
And, you know, a lot of people who are like, oh, don't ever take psychedelics because demons can attach themselves to you, and like, just all this, like, crazy claims and stuff. But the thing is with all of it is that, like, the main thing that I will always say to people is that, like, people have a very good ability to personify themselves into things. Like, good and evil is a very, very human thing. Out there, it's not existent. It's just creativity and experience. And you know, if there is an evil, it's being created to experience the good. Like, it's all being created intentionally for an experience. And, you know, even like, for example, with like, you know, the early ages of man, let's say, you know, if they went outside and there was a tiger out there, they would consider the tiger to be evil because it threatened their life, which is directly rooted back to the ego, because the ego's is scared of dying. So when these people like are always claiming that there's just this crazy cosmic like battle for, you know, control of the people, and, you know, it comes through the, you know, obviously there are evils in the world, but the truth of it all is that we all chose to co-create this reality together and to experience this time, not just physically, but emotionally and psychically as a race, with whatever trials and tribulations and challenges that come with it. But the other thing I was going to say as well is that, like, going back to the intuitional thing, you know, this is also why I'm like highly, highly against any kind of like, not just like antidepressants, but Western medicine in general. Like, I will not touch, because it's, you know, there's reasons that your body is reacting to things in certain ways. But the thing that like agitates me the most is about, you know, when people get diagnosed with depression and all this kind of stuff, and they start taking these like antidepressants and everything. The issue with that is that, you know, as we said, like, depression is the soul's method of communicating with you how to get where you need to in your life. And when you take these medications, like, it literally stops, it puts a barrier between you and your intuition. And like, but it's just an insane like thing to think about. And, you know, a lot of people got like, because I've asked people about their like taking antidepressants and stuff, and they're like, oh, but like I stopped taking them once and I had like a psychotic breakdown. It's like, no shit. Like, you've just like blocked it off, and then you've like opened it up, and you've received like all of the built up repressed emotions that you've been needing to face for a long time. Like, of course you're going to have an episode. Like, it's an overwhelming thing to do to yourself. But yeah, it's just like, it's such a fascinating subject. Yeah. That really just never ends, because it's so extensive.
Yeah, and I do feel like everything that we've been talking about today, it comes back to knowing that, you know, I feel, me personally, I feel that there, you know, some people, maybe there is a time and place for things like that, because maybe they're not, you know, that's the path they need to go on at the time. However, it comes back to wanting, and the ultimate gift in our life is to understand the self and the soul and our own version of spirituality. And if you look for it, you know, we're all looking to find our sense of self. And if we continue to look outside of ourselves, in maybe the New Age movement, in a religious movement, in a Western medicine movement, in an alternative medicine, you know, there's so many ways you can look to find your sense of self, and all of them can have their place. But if we come back to, well, how do I feel about that, exploring our inner world and what's going on internally, then we can't be led astray, because we understand that no matter where we go, we are in control to be able to come back to self, come back to ultimately love and living a life of fulfillment.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, like, again, like, all of it all starts with just like learning to meditate.
Yeah,
and
simple,
like,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, and it's that's something that fascinates me as well. Like, because I meditate probably like about an hour a day maybe, and I remember I was like talking to someone and they were just like, oh, I've never meditated, and I was just like,
you're missing out.
I was like, what? I forgot that it's the normal thing to not do it, like, and that I'm like the weird dude who goes and sits in the park on his own and, like, you know, does all this stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, it's just so fascinating to me. And I guess it's one of those things where, you know, I guess like moving forward and like in light of trying to do as much healing as possible, it's really just one of those things where you can only really focus on what you're doing and allow others to seek it. And that's ultimately, I think, the best way to look at anything, is to just create a channel of healing for those who are seeking it. Because
and letting people do what they need to do. It's okay that people, there's going to be people in our lives that won't go on this path. And, there's grief in accepting it. But, it doesn't mean that we need to go fuck you and cut everybody off. It's about going, well, how can I show up to love the people in my life no matter what the situation, and, ultimately live a great life.
Yeah, and I think, because looking back on my life, I know that the worst times that I've had have been the ones where I've been trying to forcibly help others to develop themselves.
And it doesn't work.
It never works. It never
in
works.
theory, it sounds so good.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
It's like, if you just did this.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot. Something that someone very close to me said when I was really in that. She was like, Beck, sometimes when you talk to me, I feel like you're just trying to force onto me what you think is best. I just need you to listen.
Yeah.
And that was massive. It was like, oh, okay. And actually, through doing your own thing and not trying to tell people this is what you need to do, the right people come, and then people have more interest and curiosity because you're not forcing it onto people. And
because I think that one of two things happen when you start when you start working on yourself. One of two things happen with the people around you, and it's either they're seeking something better and they look at you and go, damn, I want that, or they're still living in a world of insecurity where it's much easier for them to kind of look at you, because when you start improving yourself, that confronts everyone around you, with just by nature, because say you someone else is better than you at something, but you start taking it seriously and start overtaking them. For them, they'll look at you and go, okay, either damn, I need to put in that effort to become better, or they'll become confronted by their lack of initiative or whatever, and they'll try and tear you down to make themselves, or to try and control the situation opposed to learning from it. So I think that's the main distinction that I definitely went through. When I started taking care of myself and having that discipline and consistency, quickly learnt who my actual friends were, because a lot of people just turn on you. and it's quite wild. But
I'm definitely not the master at it, but you start to understand it's not personal. It's not personal. It's it's confronting. It's confronting, and you have to be okay to go, all right, let's go against the grain. Let's see what happens, and then sort of free fall, trust that will be caught. And
but I think as well, at the end of the day, because I always kind of forewarn people. I'm look, if you're gonna start going down this spiritual journey, just be prepared to no longer be friends with the people that you know, because some will stick it. And don't get me wrong, I've had friends who I've had falling outs with, who have contacted me years later, being hey man, sorry, whatever happened, I've been on my journey and I want to reconnect, kind of thing. I'm fuck yeah, dude, that's sick. I'm stoked to hear that. But the thing I've always found is that every time I've had a falling out with a friend or something like that, within the matter of a week or 2 weeks, I come across someone who has such similar traits to that person, but is just the coolest person I've ever met, and bonded with them in a way that wasn't possible with that other person. And it's great because, and again, going back to the subject of having to be patient, I used to have a lot of friends and it was very chaotic and everything was out of control, and went through a period where I had very, very little friends for a very long time and I felt very lonely, but doing the work eventually I found myself in a place where I was just coming across just incredible people all the time. And it was because I had done the work and they had done the work, and we were all searching for the right people to be around who understood one another. Especially again, like in the chaos that is modern society. But yeah, spirituality, man.
It's a lot.
It's nuts, yeah. But I reckon that's pretty much talked about most of the things you need to talk about.
I feel like, you could just talk forever.
It's endless. Yeah. I did a podcast with one of my other mates, which was called the I Think You Should Hear This podcast with Josh Scrivano. I think that's how you say it. But yeah, our episode went for like 3.5 hours.
Yeah,
like it just kept going.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, should we end this?
Yeah. Like, I probably need to say cut.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. It was
great.
Good fun. Are there any, I guess, like, what things would you like to advertise? Like, you've got your own mediumship, mentoring and services that you do. Is there like a certain website or
so
obviously I'll chuck everything in the links and everything.
So I do psychic readings, mediumship readings, and then mediumship mentoring, which is also like an online school that I've built as well. So if you would like to join any of that, my goal is always to empower you to have the knowledge to move forward and understand yourself, not grow. We're moving away from this age of the guru, and so I'm not a guru, to someone that knows a lot and wants to share it. So if you do want to learn from anything that I have to offer, you can just go to my socials or IamRebeccaGauci.com.
Cool, perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks for being
Thanks for having me.